It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
And then, boom, boom.
That's excellent, man.
Come on, we're going to do it. They get going. We're going. We're going. We're going. We're going.
All right, welcome in to Daily Vikings Entertainment here. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die on Purple Daily. Phil Mackey, Judd Zolgad, our executive producer, Declan Goff, and the show is presented on this 4-Question Friday by our friends at Surly Brewing Company and TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed, an AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system, ultra-realistic and true-to-life visuals, powered by Next Vision and booming sound. Learn more at TCL.com. Also, boys, let's shout out our friends here at Equity Partners. So Equity Partners is, in addition to being a friend of Purple Daily with Ryan, one of the owners, they are all about making the selling process 100% hassle-free for you guys if you're looking to sell your home. One of the biggest pains is lining up the timing of selling your home with buying a home and then any renovations you may need to take care of. With the We Have program, Equity Partners will, anything from simple fixes to total remodels, will help you get the absolute most value from your home, and you can move before you sell. Non-contingent on the sale of your home, you can put offers in on your next home. Find out more at equitypartnersmn.com. That's equitypartnersmn.com. All right, boys. Who's ready for a 4-Question Friday here?
I love 4-Question Friday.
Daily.
Big fan.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
We got to go. All right. Question number 1 here. The best odds you can get right now on the Vikings to win the Super Bowl, in terms of like most profit, 50-1. The best odds you can get in terms of like, if you're just looking at who believes the most in the Vikings to win the Super Bowl, and those odds are at DraftKings, 40-1, BetMGM and Caesars. Looks like FanDuel also has the Vikings at 40-1.
Yep.
So the sports books have the Vikings, if you convert that to a percentage, like a 2 to 2.5% chance, maybe a 3% chance, 2.5, to win the Super Bowl. What do you think the percent chance is the Vikings win the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, I think 2% is fair. Like, you can't dismiss it completely and say it's -5. But I don't see this as a Super Bowl team. Do I see it as potentially a more competitive team than 2021? Absolutely. Do I think that they could make the playoffs at the bottom of the playoff rung, which now has 7 teams qualify? Yes, I do. Do I see them making a playoff run with this team as currently constructed and getting to a Super Bowl, given some things they're going to trust? I think certain players could improve, and I think they have some very nice players, but I don't see this as being a Super Bowl team. So I think, as usual, Vegas is probably being fair and spot on.
I give it a 5%.
Oh.
Bump up to 5% chance.
Oh.
I think 5. You ran it back 100 times. Can they get there? Can they do it? I think it's a 5% chance they could do this. Teams surprise you all the time. It just takes one miraculous run. I'll be this crusader for a minute here. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. No one expected him to do it. Okay? It can happen. It can absolutely happen. You can get to the Super Bowl. No one saw the Bengals going to Super Bowl. I ripped them on week 1 before the season even started, and they got to the bleeping Super Bowl. I'll say 5%. I'll say a 5% chance the Vikings can make the Super Bowl.
Wow. No. Well, you said make. I said win.
Win. Still win. Still
okay.
win. Yeah,
I just want to be
5%
clear.
win.
I just want to be clear
Yep.
here.
I think it's time for drug testing here at
Yeah,
Hubbard.
just want to make sure.
Okay.
No,
Time-
I don't.
time to
I
drug
don't
test.
know that we need that actually.
Says the guy out in Seattle.
Kind of kidding.
I don't want to be drug tested. Thank you very much.
I think it's 1%, and here's why. Okay, I think they have a much better chance. Whatever they're gonna do in the Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins regime or era here, which maybe it only lasts 2 years. I think year 2 is going to be better than year 1. I just looked this up. So how many Super Bowls have there been? 50 some odd, 52? What are we up to now? There's been at least 50 Super Bowls. 54?
Yeah.
I think the first one was 67, right?
Okay. So we're somewhere in the mid-50s for Super Bowls. Only twice has a first-year coach in the NFL won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The first one was all the way back in 1970. The head coach was Don McCafferty with the Baltimore Colts.
Oh, God, that was a terrible Super Bowl. Yeah.
It was really bad. Yeah, the Baltimore Colts won the Super Bowl, but they were coming off of. So Don Shula was the coach leading into that for like 7 or 8 years, and then he took over. He went to the Dolphins.
Right.
But Don Shula had that Colts team. They went to the NFL championship game in 1964. They went to the Super Bowl in 1968 and lost. That was the Joe Namath guarantee game. So they were like on the doorstep of Super Bowls twice in the years leading up to that. And then they bring in a new coach and it all pops. Johnny Unitas, right? I think he was still the quarterback in 1970. It's also a different era from 50 plus years ago. The only other one is George Seifert taking over.
That doesn't count.
In 1989 for Bill Walsh, who had already formed a dynasty in the 80s. So he sits in the cockpit of a dynasty plane. And George Seifert wound up being a multi-time champion coach, but like the groundwork was laid as a championship level team in the decade before that.
Barry Switzer, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like he won a Super Bowl, but it's like, yeah, he had some help from the previous regime.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, was Barry Switzer, was he in his second year?
I think he was second year, yeah.
Okay. So it's really unlikely. I mean, there's only like a 1.5 or 2% chance just based on that statistic that a first year head coach would come in. And in both examples, the teams that they were taking over you're taking over for legendary coaches that had built infrastructure in Don Shula and in Bill Walsh. Right. So I'm going to put it at like a 1% chance. I'm not going to say never, but it just makes it more difficult. They'd have to go from 8 wins to probably 12 or 13 in the regular season, maybe get a bye in the first round, and then play home games leading up to the Super Bowl. And then, by the way, when you get to the Super Bowl, you're running into like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or one of these teams that's just climbed the ladder in the AFC for the last 2 or 3 years. So, year 2, let's see. I think year 2 could be, I'm not going to put them on Super Bowl for sure in year 2, but if they build this thing at its peak capability, I still have I have more Kirk Cousins questions than I have Kevin O'Connell questions, actually. But, yeah.
You want to pull a Zolgad, push it down the road in 2023? You want to make a prediction?
You know what?
I can write that down. Prediction for 2020. I'm going to predict the Jazz draft pick in 2029, the pick that Wolves fans are clamoring about. He's a 7th grader right now, going to high school in Virginia. Well, you got nothing to say, Judd? Got your tongue there?
No, I mean, I'm being mocked here for the fact that I make predictions that I believe in. While some people make CFL predictions and then make up fake Twitter accounts to pat themselves on the back.
Fake Twitter
for
accounts?
those
Fake YouTube accounts?
Yeah, fake YouTube accounts.
That's our audience.
Yeah, sure it was. Love the Edmonton pick.
Wow, the accusations here
They're flying. They're going to fly.
fiery. Okay, question number 2 here. Former Vikings head coach Leslie Frazier said on the AP Pro Football podcast, "It's discouraging that he hasn't received a second chance as a head coach." Here's the quote. "I'd be lying if I told you that I felt like it would take this long to have that opportunity come along again, especially after some of the success, particularly the most recent success we've had in Buffalo." By the way, they've had 3 top 3 yardage defenses in the last 4 years in Buffalo, including number 1 last year. Yep. There have been a lot of defensive head coaches that have won Super Bowls in our league because at the end of the day, you need the right leadership. It's unfortunate. I think it's very narrow-minded to only see the head coach as an offensive guy because you have a young quarterback. You need the right leader in that role. You've got to be able to handle multiple responsibilities, not just call offensive plays. So Frazier is 63 years old now. Does he have a gripe? Does he deserve a second chance as a head coach?
He probably does. So I don't think he's wrong. But I saw him coach, and he's a great guy. I really liked him a lot. But I think he's perfect as a DC. Like, I think it's his role. He's such a nice guy that I don't know. Head coaches have to be a little bit more authoritative, I think. And look, Tony Dungy perfected what Les tried to do. But I don't know that Les is Dungy. So, yes, I think he does have a gripe. I get where he's coming from. I do think unfairly, if he were Caucasian, that he would have got a second chance by now. So it's not fair. But as far as his personality goes, man, I think he is really good at what he does. And I don't know if he has the right personality or temperament for being a coach. I think Dungy was up here. I mean, Tony was great. I
He's
think
not
Dungy
Tony
was
Dungy.
Exactly. I think Dungy was up here, and I think Les is a little bit below that. To me, it's a little bit more of a conversation, because I do think that if what he is implying or saying is that there is a racial component to this, I don't think he's wrong.
I think he definitely deserves a second chance. Look at all the buffoons that have gotten NFL head coaching jobs. And he has proved himself as one of the best defensive coordinators of the last 5 years, and especially over the last 10 to 15 years. And he 100% deserves another shot at being a head coach. He's up there in age. He's 63. Mike Zimmer took a while to really get his crack at being an NFL coach, and he got 8 years out of it. So I do think someone should take a chance on Leslie Frazier. 100%.
I would love to see him get a second chance. He's just a really good human and obviously a brilliant defensive. I think he's reinvented himself, too, as a defensive coach. Because those Vikings defenses, and that roster was kind of turning over and rebuilding, in fairness. When he got that head coaching job, it was at the end of a lot of old guys were coming off the books, and then they went and drafted Christian Ponder. And so he wasn't exactly working with blue-chip talent his 3 years with the Vikings on defense. But it did erode into the worst defense in the NFL in multiple categories his last year with the Vikings. And now he's reinvented himself as this defensive coordinator. I think what I would worry about is when he was a head coach, and granted, like I said, it was kind of a transitional period for the Vikings, but they were mostly a train wreck. Outside of Adrian Peterson putting the franchise on his back in 2012 for 2,000 yards coming off surgery. The defense was terrible, and even though Christian Ponder probably wasn't going to become a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, even under Bill Belichick, he didn't develop at all under Leslie Frazier.
There were definitely some red flags. You're not wrong.
Whatever the best version of Christian Ponder is, and I don't know what that would have looked like. Maybe it's Mitch Trubisky or something, but we got the worst version of a bad quarterback. And Leslie Frazier was ultimately the leader of that team. So I'd love to see him get another shot. I understand why he hasn't to this point. And I do think he has a gripe that, and I don't know that he's directly making, I don't think he's making the racial commentary here himself, but if he did, he would have a case. Like his resume screams he should at some point get another shot.
Yes.
So now that it's halftime here of this 4-Question Friday, let's cheers to the weekend with our favorite beverage.
Hold on a second here, because I'm going to tell you right now, the weekend is built on a couple of key tenets, and one of them is, what beer do you have? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't have a Surly beer to start your weekend, you're doing it wrong. Now, I base my fundamental foundation around this puppy right here, and if you aren't watching us right now, it is obviously a Furious. But you know what? It's the summer. And that means it's the summer of Surly. And that means in the summer of Surly, when you're saying, Judd, what else can I drink from our friends at Surly Brewing? I bring to you the Logic Bomb. That's right. This beer right here, ladies and gentlemen, it screams summer, and it screams summer of Surly. And so I hope in the next few days, of course, very responsibly, you're enjoying a Logic Bomb from Surly.
I got an email yesterday from my college friends. We've had a fantasy football league for a long time. I feel like I've never won it. I think we've been doing this for, I don't know, my God, 15 years or something. Maybe I won it once. But I'm not very, I think what happens is on Sundays, I might forget to change my lineup, or, oh, this guy is questionable, and then I get busy or go to brunch and forget. Well, Underdog Fantasy has your problem solved. It is the best and easiest way to get a sweat on games, and with the season-long drafts, there's no waivers, trades, or lineup setting. No stressing over the week-to-week or day-to-day management. You draft a team, which is the most fun part, or multiple teams, and Underdog will just set your lineup after the fact based on who scored the most points. So it's awesome. There's also all kinds of other just sort of individual over-under pick'em games you can get involved with to have more fun watching these sporting events. UnderdogFantasy.com and the Underdog Fantasy app, which is so easy, Judd can use it. Sign up now with the promo code SCORE, S-K-O-R, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100 bonus cash, and you can help us as we look to keep growing Purple Daily and Score North by entering that promo code SKOR. question number 3 here, boys. So Football Outsiders, noted analytics website, put out their 2022 quarterback tiers, 9 different tiers. And they're mostly A, B+, B, C+, C, D+, D, and F. The top one is S. I don't know what that stands for, but it includes Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Patrick
Superman,
Mahomes.
superhuman, maybe. I don't
Super
know.
good. Super good. Swell. Some swell guys.
Swell.
Super Bowl caliber. I don't know. But those are the 3 best quarterbacks. And then the next tier is the A tier, which is Justin Herbert and Josh Allen together. Then you got the B+ tier, which is Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. Then you got the B tier, which is Kyler Murray and Derek Carr. And then the C+ tier, which is Matt Ryan, Mac Jones, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, Trevor Lawrence, and Kirk Cousins. Is this a fair ranking?
I think it's pretty accurate, yes. Until proven otherwise, I have zero problem with where he falls. Now, you know what? 2022 could completely change that. Stand it on its ear. But as of right now, I think it's fair. I mean, he always I feel like for all that we all debate Kirk, the stands and the Crusaders and people that don't believe in Kirk as much, I feel we all land around the same neighborhood of ranking for him. Beyond those who are just Kirk obsessed, right? Oh, Kirk's a top 5. That's a different. But yeah, I think it's fair. Like, could I debate some of the semantics of, he should be above this guy? Yeah, I probably could. But again, in almost all of these rankings, I really think that they pretty crystallize what the majority of us think about Kirk, which is he's not awful, he's not terrible, but is he a guy who belongs in a tax bracket that houses the best quarterbacks in the National Football League? The answer right now is absolutely not.
Yeah. What about you, Declan?
I think C+ is a little harsh. I think he is certainly an above average quarterback. As a guy who got a lot of C+ in his academic life, I know the work it takes to get to a C+. I know the bare minimum I have to get on this test so I can pass this class with that exact grade. I know Kirk Cousins works harder than that. I think he's more in the B- range. And I know Football Outsiders didn't do the minuses in their tiers, but I would put him, I think C+ is just a little harsh. But when they did their breakdown of this, which was actually pretty hilarious, they spent maybe all of 25 seconds to justify their pick with Kirk Cousins in the C+ tier, just saying, hey, he is who he is at this point. We know him. He's nothing has changed about him. He belongs in the C+ tier. I understand why they put him there, but personally, I think it's a little harsh.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think there's a little disrespect here. He's better than this current version of Matt Ryan, but I also wonder, now that Matt Ryan's going to just a better organization, Matt Ryan's been with the eroding Falcons the last couple of years. But people get super offended when you put Kirk Cousins in the same sentence as like, Ryan, he's better than Ryan Tannehill. Is he? So Tannehill had a little bit of an offseason last year, but 2 and 3 years ago, he led the NFL in passer rating, yards per attempt, 70% completions.
They're about the same.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill's peak has been better than Kirk Cousins' peak, and there's been better team results too.
And by the way, Kirk's career screams C+ish.
But a lot of people, the Cousins Crusaders would say, no. The infrastructure around him is a D.
Right.
He is an A-, and he looks like a C+ because the stuff around him is a D. That's what people would say.
But the problem is the Crusaders then, when I say, okay, you know what now? The conditions are perfect, they'll say, that's unfair to Kirk. You don't know that. You can't say that.
Because it's everything
so, like,
you can do
they
to
just move the
protect Kirk,
goalposts
right?
every day, every single day. I think that he is very much, if you look at the arc of a career now, that is not small sample size. It's a big one. He's a very much a B-, C+ quarterback. That doesn't make him bad.
Yeah.
Like, again, I feel like I have to defend it because if I said Kirk Cousins is a D- or an F,
he's like garbage.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah. No, he's not. That's a stupid statement, Judd, and it would be. But what about his career beyond personal stats, what about that career screams, oh, he's got to be a B+.
Agreed. He needs to go out. People say, well, Dak Prescott. Okay, let's talk about Dak Prescott for 30 seconds here. I don't have it. Well, let me look this up real quick. I believe the Cowboys are like 20 games above 500 in the Dak Prescott era. So some of this is your own personal numbers, but the other thing is quarterbacks are the most influential players on winning. So Dak Prescott with the Cowboys are 53-32 in 6 years with Dak Prescott. They are 21 games over 500 with a 13-3 season in there and an 11-5 season in there. Their offensive line at the beginning of this run was the best in the NFL, but it is no longer the best in the NFL. Their defense has been historically bad for a couple years. Like, fire people,
2 years,
burn the boats. Yeah, like he's had a coach get fired in there. So nobody would argue the last 6 years that the Cowboys' infrastructure is great. They've had a lot of flaws. Zeke Elliott taking up a ton of money and giving you way less production than Dalvin Cook. Mm-hmm. And yet, they are 53-32. Mike McCarthy is their head coach. Like, who is stumping for Mike McCarthy being one of the best coaches in the NFL? Well, they still won 11 games last season. So you got to ask yourself, if you're saying, well, he's better than Dak Prescott. Well, Dak Prescott has more of an impact on winning games than Kirk Cousins has had. It's just a fact. Unless you think Dallas's car is that much better the last 6 years than the Vikings car, which it's not.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Exactly. I think it's
thought we had to mix in a Kirk Cousins talker because we just don't talk enough Kirk Cousins on this show.
Plus, we love rankings.
And we like ranking things. Yep. All right, question number 4, kind of our random question of the week here. So I discovered a new podcast this week. It's called Pod Meets World. Boy Meets World was one of my favorite shows growing up. One of those 90s, corny 90s sitcoms. TGIF on Friday nights, ABC.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a podcast where 3 of the characters, Topanga, Eric, and Sean, go back and do like hour-long deep dives into each individual episode of Boy Meets World. I think they're like 4 episodes in right now, and it's great. First of all, the chemistry is great. They're all still friends to this day, and they all live kind of in similar neighborhoods or whatever. And they just tell all these behind-the-scenes stories. So that is now my new favorite podcast. For you guys, what podcast that doesn't currently exist would you like to bring to reality so that you could listen to it?
You know, a lot of people are doing more of these shows, like, you know, Boy
Saved by
Meets
the Bell
World,
had
you know.
one.
The Office has now 2 of them with Pam and Angela. Kevin started doing one. Entourage started doing this too a couple summers ago, where they're reviewing everyone. For me, it's not necessarily a TV or a movie show that I'd like to see do this. And to be honest, I probably should do a little more deeper dive and research before I answer this question. But I would love a podcast that explains sports teams that were relocated, like all the like the North Stars leaving, anyone leaving. I would love much more information on that. I think all that stuff
the
is
devastation of fans being left behind, or what kind of angle?
Both. From the fans' perspective and just what drug the economic reasons for those teams leaving. I'm sure there are podcasts that exist already like this, and I just haven't explored the space. But I find like
we
the
did
North
one on
Stars,
the North Stars one time.
Yeah,
actually, on
yeah,
Maggie
with
and
Louie
Joe.
and Mike Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You
I
should
love
listen to
all
it,
that
and you'd have that.
information. And even the Timberwolves almost leaving to New Orleans, like when and Glenn Taylor stepping in at the last second. Like I love that type of stuff. Fascinates me. When the Twins were almost contracted in 01, we all know that. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's super fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we did a really good one, Dex. You should check it out.
Sure. I'll
It's
do that
available
after I
Score
post all
North.
these.
Score North
Will do.
feeds. Lou Nanny, Mike Madonna, the departure of the team. Original Law and Order characters talking about episodes. I'd love to hear that. I don't think they've done. You know what? There's like no bloopers. There's no nothing. That show is very buttoned down. That show is. I don't know if it's secretive, but there's not like a lot of. For that show in particular, fan stuff. I would love to hear, but I don't want SVU. I don't want criminal intent. I don't care about that stuff. I want the original. So, and I did see the Pod Meets World podcast. They post some clips of that on the talk. It's really good. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
Highly recommended.
To hear them talk about like uncomfortable kisses and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's good.
Yeah. So it's funny because I think my podcast dreams have already come true in the last 5 or 10 years with all of these Attitude Era wrestling podcasts that have come out.
It's been really good.
Anything and everything from my favorite era of wrestling, the late 1990s, has already been talked about every which direction you possibly can. Every single person from that era, except maybe The Undertaker, has a podcast, and they've talked about all the key moments and stuff. Declan and I are just listening to this Ringer podcast now that does deep dives into the 25 best catchphrases from the late 90s Attitude Era. So, like, I feel like, I don't know, everything I've ever wanted to... The only show from that era that I would love to go back and if Bob Saget was still around...
Yep.
Him doing episode by episode reviews of Full House would have been incredible. But obviously we can never have that now because Bob Saget's gone. So I would say, like, if there was a way to bring Bob Saget back talking about each episode of Full House in the hilarious sort of dirty way that he is known to do his non-Full House comedy, that would have been amazing. But
That would be
can't
great.
do it. So all right, there it is. That's a 4-Question Friday, also presented by our friends at Federated. So later on this month, the Federated Challenge is taking place again. Just a wonderful event that helps raise over $44 million since 2015, or 2005, I should say, for Big Brothers Big Sisters, which provides one-to-one, professionally supported mentoring relationships for children facing adversity. If you want to find out how you can get involved or be a big yourself, go to federatedchallenge.org. That's federatedchallenge.org. All right, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Enjoy the weekend. We're counting the days down until Vikings training camp. Daily Vikings entertainment here on Purple Daily.